Hi, and welcome to the third video in the Getting Started series for Microsoft Teams. And in this video, we'll be exploring Teams tabs. Now, Teams tabs houses much of the collaborative nature that we've been chatting about or hinting at so far. And when we look at Teams tabs, we can see that they are posts, files, class notebook, assignments, grades, and online meetings. Because there's a lot to cover, I'm going to be splitting up our exploration of these tabs into today's video, as well as the fourth video in the series. So in this video, we'll be exploring posts, files, and class notebook. And the next video in the series will cover assignments, grades, and online meetings. So finally, we get to discuss what are the collaborative components of a team site. We've been hinting at them so far, and now we get to have a look at what those are. But before we jump into them, let's have a look at the relationship between these tabs that we've just talked about and channels. So the structure of a team includes channels. They're the next identifiable space that's within a team, because when you click on a team, you actually don't get a segment or space to work with. The first space that's given when a team is created is the general channel. We can see here under my collaboration or team collaboration, I have my general channel, and then I've opted to add additionals. However, additional channels don't often have the same options as the general channel. In a class Teams, for example, the general channel houses the class notebook, assignments, and grades, whereas any subsequent team or channel, that I add will only include posts, files, and online meetings. You can add a OneNote, but it won't function in the same way as a class notebook. Also, each channel is unique. What do I mean by that? If you were to upload a document to the files in the general channel, example in the general channel here for my team collaboration, that document will not be viewable or accessible in the other channels, unless I were to add it there myself or post a link in the other channel to the general channel. And typically, information posted in a private channel cannot be accessed by anyone who doesn't have access to that channel. So we can see channels as sort of independent spaces within a team that can be either public or private. And those channel spaces house tabs. Now let's look at the first one. Posts is the message board of your class teams. Everyone who has access to the channel can see messages that are posted here. They can see meetings that are posted, online meetings that are posted here as well, and any updates in the files that has been flagged also on this page. So to add to the conversation within the post or to make an announcement, you'd want to use the New Conversation button at the bottom. Clicking will open up the text box so that you can type your message. And if you wanted additional formatting, we can use the first button below the text box to see the formatting options. Now from here, we can also see that I can post this message on multiple channels. I can define who can reply to this message. And I can even set this message up as an announcement. Now, since this is my first message in my newly created class Teams, I'm going to turn this into an announcement style message. And I'll show you what that means. So as an example, we can see here I've typed hello everyone. This is an announcement styled message now, so it comes with a colored border. I can add a subheading and description. I can even attach documents to this message by either using the attach option, or I can drag and drop onto the page. We also have opportunities to add fun emojis, GIFs, or even stickers. There's an opportunity to link in Microsoft Stream videos and even have a look at the badging system so that you can praise other students. There's also some other options and the additional app drawer, but I won't get too deep into that. For now, I have my text message set up as an announcement and my document that I've linked. I'm going to send. We can see that an announcement styled message has the announcement emoji in the top right and is quite large in comparison to other messages. I'm just going to have a conversation with myself. 1 second. We can see the difference between the two. Now, another key thing to know about posts is that replies to messages stay attached to the original message. Now, this is a great way to situate conversations and to make catching up or following information much easier. So instead of typing "thanks for sharing, Nick" as an independent new conversation, I probably wanted to say it right under the announcement. Or ask a question. And now this question, is now attached to the message. And then students who also have the same question can follow along very easily. And because I've posted this now twice, I'm going to go ahead and delete the second message. We use the ellipsis on the far right of a message to either add helpful emojis or to pull up options, which include delete. After a few conversations, meetings, announcements, past information may become difficult to find and access as it's pushed further and further up the page. Considering this, I find that the Post tab is best used for in-the-moment sharing of information and not information that needs to be continuously referenced. For example, my Getting Started document would be best added as a document here so that it lives in the Files tab. It's important to note, any document that's added to the post is also added to the files. If I were to simply copy and paste text into the text box, that information would then live only in the Posts tab and then would become difficult to find over time. That brings us to our next tab, the Files tab. Files is aptly named because by default, this tab allows for members to both add and collaborate on different types of files within the space, not just documents. The cap on storage within a team site is essentially 25 terabytes at max capacity, but it's subject to available space across the organization. Now, I typically won't be too worried about that particular number. I assume that 25 terabytes is the available option for most team sites, simply because the organization can juggle space across the entire organization. And typically, we won't find that everyone's creating their max allotment of team sites, per se. This means that elements such as large videos can be uploaded and shared through the files here. There are some specific limitations on individual file sizes. For example, I believe 100 gigabytes is the largest file that you can add as a single file to a site. But for the most part, with such a large size allotment for the files, you can really house much of anything. We look at the tabs across the top. We can see we can add new folders or different Word documents. Selecting any one will allow you to give a name, and it opens immediately from within the Teams interface. From here, we'll be able to see if there are anyone else collaborating with us, a running list of collaborators across the top, as well as cursors, colored cursors that indicate any other students that might be editing the same page as I. And this functionality is similar across all other Office documents, say it's PowerPoint or Excel or even OneNote. There's a very detailed degree of collaboration that any student who has access to the channel and subsequently that document can then edit in real time. We can close any document that we've opened from Files by using the close in the top right. The next button allows us to upload directly from our computer, and we can upload both files and folders. And next is the copy link, which essentially copies a link to the entire files folder for the teams, so it'll encompass all the documents listed. Or within a given document, we can use the ellipsis to see options to copy the link for specific documents, as well as to manipulate that document in a number of different ways. We can even download the entirety of the files section and add additional cloud storage. Say we had documents living in Dropbox or Google Drive. And finally, we have the option to open this space as a SharePoint site. Now, I don't want to go too detailed into SharePoint sites, but note that anytime a team is created, a SharePoint site or backend is also created for that team. The SharePoint site gives a different view of the team, but essentially will show any of the information that's already been added to the team. I find that SharePoint gives a very detailed look and some very nuanced opportunities for using a team site. However, I really don't want to focus too much on the SharePoint site aspect because it's a completely different UI and a completely different look and feel to a team. This view here in Teams is to me the most user-friendly version or view and the one that students might appreciate. Next, we can toggle the different view panes for the Files tab, whether we want list, compact, or tiles. And that ends that quick demo looking at the files. Lastly, we're going to look at today is Class Notebook. Now, Class Notebook is a text editing service, a very, very robust text editing service that allows for different sections and pages to be set up for collaboration or for individual use. When we first create a class team, we can set up the notebook using the handy wizard. Let's begin. We can either work from a blank notebook or from an existing notebook content. Let's go from blank for now. The next page shows you what you're going to get once you're completed setting up the class notebook. Essentially, there are 4 sections that are typically standard. One is a collaboration space. And in this space, it outlines what it's used for typically and what people can do. We can see that teachers can edit and students can edit within the collaboration space. However, as we move to content library, this is a space where only teachers can edit and students only have a view option. Next, we have a teacher-only section where teachers can edit and students cannot view. And lastly, we have private student spaces or private student notebooks in which the teacher can edit and only the student can only edit content and cannot view others' notebooks. So now that we get a sense of what we're getting, let's go ahead and click Next. On this page, we'll be setting up the students' private spaces. We can see that it comes pre-populated with handouts, class notes, homework, and quizzes. But if this doesn't fit what you're trying to accomplish, you can simply use the X to remove and add additional sections as you wish. Once you've set up the different sections that you'd like to be added into the private student spaces, we'll click Create. Now this may take a few seconds, no more than 20 or 30 seconds to create, So I'll check back with you in a quick second. So here we are. We have our class notebooks been created. If I were to use the menu on the top left, I'll be able to see the different sections that we have okayed and now appear. We have our collaboration space, our content library, and our teacher only segment. And these are different sections that are available. Now, underneath each section, there are the ability to add different pages. And these pages are where you're going to be able to add and edit content. Each page will keep the permission levels that we saw on the previous setup wizard, noting that all students and instructors can collaborate in the collaboration space. Content is editable by instructors in the content library, but only viewable by students. And the teacher only segment is private and only visible by the instructor or teacher only. Below the teacher only segment is where private student spaces would also live, but I don't have any students here to demonstrate. These students would have their sections delineated by their name, and then would have any additional pages that we had okayed underneath, which would include things like the homework, the quizzes, and that private reflective journal that I added. Again, in the private student spaces, students can only see their own sections. The pages themselves are fairly easy to navigate. And once opened, you'll be familiar with the functionality as it's similar to a Word document. You can edit text, you can add tables, images, audios, or links. And there's even some additional functionality like attaching and embedding certain documents onto the page. This ends the first segment looking at Teams tabs. I look forward to exploring assignments, grades, and online meetings with you in the fourth video in the series.